And now, it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Wait, it's all to tell the people about the music that's coming your way.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Ben on vacation. PK sticking around today. Patrick Hinahan, of course, of DJ and PK fame. Wearing a good-looking sweater today. It's nice.
Thank you.
How are you?
Sure the wife got it? I think I'm great.
What is it? Are you cold in the morning? It's going to be like 80 degrees today.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to wear it later, but I get up a little earlier where it's not quite as warm. It was in the 50s when I'm driving in.
Well, you're a Phoenix guy. You're soft.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Although I will live there one more time. It's home.
You've lived here for a while.
I have.
I was thinking this yesterday. Yesterday felt like a walk down memory lane kind of day with Scotty and Hans and their 10-year anniversary. I know you participated. And then, Bill Walton and everybody sharing,
I understand.
their favorite parts of Bill Walton.
How cool would it be to die and have that type of reception?
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But I was thinking about this. You and DJ have been on the radio you've done the show for over 20 years.
Yeah.
I was a small part of that in the early 2000s.
I remember.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You've been doing radio exclusively since 06?
07.
07?
Mm-hmm.
How much of our audience truly knows what a old salty beat reporter you were when I first met you?
That's a good point.
Because you were doing both, and you had this whole previous tough guy, beat guy, old school journalist guy.
I did radio and newspapers simultaneously for 5 years.
I remember. You were doing the morning show with Deej.
Yeah.
And then you had to drive to Provo every day because you were covering, I guess Croton at the time, Croton and the Cougs.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Cleveland, right? I believe Cleveland was...
Cleveland came in 90, the Final Four year was his first year.
Yeah, so it would have been Cleveland at the time that I met you.
Yeah, but that was before I was doing full-time radio.
Ish, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, although I was subbing a lot.
But BYU wasn't even your first beat with the Salt Lake Tribune.
Not at all. I did Utah. I did Utah State. BYU came about full-time with the Olympics. Because they changed the editor, Jay Sheladay, a guy who I really loved working for, and Tom McCarthy, who I really loved working for. The papers changed dramatically, but those guys were great to work for. Tom was the one who hired me. And in 2002, and I had those battles with Majerus, and they had tried to get me off the beat many times.
Yeah.
And in 2002, after the Olympics, they changed all the assignments, but they were going to keep me on Utah, and they thought, no, that would seem like we're just singling them out to stick it to Utah. So they said, how about you just do BYU? I said, fine. So I did BYU football, BYU basketball.
So that's when I first met you. You were doing BYU.
Yeah.
But you had this whole previous thing with Utah, as you just explained, a interesting relationship with Rick Majerus.
10 years, yeah.
But it got me thinking how things kind of, I don't know, how the media has changed pretty significantly.
It's changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Everything has changed dramatically, and media is right there at the top.
It's pretty incredible.
Some for the better, some for the worse.
But I kind of liked it back in the day when you bring in a salty attitude and it wasn't best buddies and it was about, but it wasn't about gotcha stuff either. It was just about covering the team.
Well,
what's really going on, you know?
Truthfully.
Right.
Yeah, that was the point.
But and then your process,
and hopefully fairly.
But your process, and you continue this to this very day. But your process of I'm a beat guy. What is news? What is rumor? What is reportable? What is appropriate? Which I think is often lost. And I don't know if the next generation is being taught that stuff. I think I was really lucky to come along when I did because I got the tail end of it, and now it's just not that.
It's not that.
It's either it's like agendas or it's
opinion and agenda. Yeah. You don't know who to trust.
Or like fandom, which is a different thing.
True. Yeah. Well, a lot of fan sites have now their credentialed media, and you have to understand what you're getting. But some people like that, depending on what you grew up with. So the whole state of media it is night and day from when I first entered. As sources say, it just wasn't allowed, and now it's commonplace. It's the way of the world. Sources say. I mean, Dick Hoops Weiss, guy's been in this business for over 50 years, puts out a thing that he's heard that there's Big 12 or Big 10 ACC discussions with Utah, and then Utah comes out yesterday and says, no, that's not true, and it's irresponsible. I get that because. Maybe there have been discussions, but our talks, hey, what's up? Is that a discussion? But he hears that and he puts it out there, and then you got to respond to it. And now, in the old days, there wouldn't be a format to be able to just go out and put on 150 characters or whatever it might be, and be taken as news. There's a woman, Leah Wodrowska, who worked at the Salt Lake Tribune for many years, yeah. Right? I respected her greatly.
She had a particularly awkward moment with Gordon once, but that aside.
And so she covered Utah football, did a great job, and I remember standing on the sidelines with her watching practice, which you can't even do anymore. But we were standing on the sidelines, and she got out of the business. And she said to me...
She's like a famous trainer now or something, right? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, she lost a lot of weight and got really into it, and sharp gal. And so she said that journalism school now, this was when Twitter first came out and there was 140 characters, and she said that what they should do is train you how to write a story in 140 characters or less. Because that's where news was.
Yeah.
And so now you can... Hoops Weiss puts that out there, and it's perceived as news.
I get what you're saying, especially when it's at, what's the word? Taken and goes from site to site to site to site.
Right.
What, aggregating it or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're hitting on something that totally bugs me, and this is why I'm such an old man or get accused of it. But like the way I learned it, PK, if you're going to use anonymous sources, it better be like Watergate, deep throat type of stuff, or else get it on the record. Like you have to get it on the record. And if you're going to use deep throat type stuff, it better be double sourced, and then it's run through an editor, and then it's fact checked. It's all this stuff, and then the lawyers have to get involved. Back in the day, it was like this has to be correct if you're going to go with it. You know what I mean? And there's none of that. And so all of a sudden, we have to trust this bozo that he knows what he's talking about, or his standard, or whatever.
Right.
I mean, there's none of that anymore. I mean, Chris Broussard famously with his sources. Do you remember when Darren Williams announced? I can't even remember what it was. He's re-signing with Brooklyn, I think it was, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he put it out there on Twitter, and then 10 minutes later, Broussard was like, sources say Darren Williams is staying with Brooklyn.
Oh, Williams put it out himself?
Yeah, it was like, well, who's your source, dude? Me? You know what I mean? And it was just, in that point, that's just a total show. Now you're completely abusing it. Right. So...
Well,
it's
see,
frustrating
that
to
helped
me.
Broussard keep his lucrative job.
Hey, and I guess good for him. I'm not hating the player. I'm hating the game.
Understood.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's frustrating to me, and we could obviously expand this beyond sports, but with sports, it seems to be the most, every time somebody reports something, my first question, PK, is, where's that coming from?
What's the agenda?
Who wants you to put out that? I mean, you can pick who's got their guys in the national media that just report what they want. I mean, there's a reason that they put somebody who looks like Brian Windhorst on television.
What do you mean looks like Brian Windhorst?
He's not your typical television star.
Okay, if you consider him a television star, but okay, you're going to the physical appearance you're talking about now.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to be mean, but like he
He doesn't fit the prototype.
He grew up with LeBron.
Yeah.
He got his first job because LeBron got drafted by the Cavs. So he worked for, speaking of going down memory lane, I used to book him when I was a radio producer when he worked for the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
Yeah. If that's the paper he worked for, I didn't know he worked for that, but that's what it is, yeah.
I booked him all the time. He would come on all the time. Next thing I know, LeBron decision goes to Miami. And what happens? He gets hired by ESPN to go to Miami. And all his reports are coming directly from Clutch. They always have. And now he's this big ESPN guy who's supposed to have credibility, but all he is a...
You want to say mouthpiece?
Yes.
Is that where you're going?
But you know what? To not... I mean, Woj is a mouthpiece too. His aren't as obvious, but he's a mouthpiece too.
Well, yeah, the world of media, I think that's been around for a good while, is I use you, you use me.
Somebody from the Jazz likes Woj.
Yeah.
I mean, we could all guess. But somebody from the Jazz likes Woj.
Right.
Because the beat guys aren't breaking that stuff anymore.
No. Well, they want the bigger bang. And so you get someone who's a national dude.
Right. So I'm not leaking to PK anymore. I'm saving it for Woj.
That's what's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you would go locally, and then that's why I wouldn't want to be a beat person now, because you're competing with far more than you used to, because they can have access to these guys. And he comes into town and greases them a little bit. I've seen it. I've known the guy for 30 years. He worked in Fresno when I was on the beat. Him and Andy Katz. Woj was the columnist at Fresno, and Andy was the beat writer for Fresno State.
Yeah.
And I can recall the three of us, after Utah went in there, it was a big game because Tark was coaching. They had a good team. And so it was the three of us in the little media room afterward, and it's Andy, Woj, and me, and we're beat guys writing our stuff for the next morning, and Woj is trying to write a column, and he can't think of anything, and he's screaming obscenities at his computer. And I had known Andy because he'd worked in Albuquerque, and so I got to know those guys pretty well. And I look over at Andy, and he looks at me. We catch each other's eye, and we're both trying to hide back the laughter.
Yeah.
Because Woj is screaming obscenities because nothing has come to him. He's a total writer's block, and time is ticking.
Yeah, right.
So, he knows how to play it, and good for him. He's making 7 figures plus. All those guys.
He's the biggest name in NBA media.
Yeah, and so you got that going on. And I think that's why there's a general distrust for media. The business,
I agree.
The business's overall credibility is awful. And that bothers me.
Well, I guess long story short, I appreciate you and David James, and there are, I think, voices out there. And I say voices because it's not written, or, I mean, there's so many different ways to get it. But
right, and you hope you have credibility.
Right.
I got burned. One of our guys, a few years back, I heard, hey, the deal is getting close to being done with Mitchell to New York. So I just said it.
It was on the show. You were filling in with me.
Yeah. There you go. That's right. It was. You're the problem. And Hatch took it and put it out there. I didn't tweet it.
Yeah.
Because, I thought it was just, you could say that, hey, I heard, this is what I heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what I heard. Well, that thing blew up like crazy.
Well,
oh my gosh, I had to stop answering the phone. I never said it was a done deal. I never said I was reporting it was a done deal. But as DJ came back to me and told me, and he was 100% correct, is that I've established myself to a level of credibility. I didn't give myself enough credibility. And then when I said that, he's saying people think because they respect you and trust you that they put 2 and 2 together. And he was right. I did not think that all the way through. Shame on me. And I got burned on that.
I think that also points out something that's interesting that I learned working with Gordon. And it is part of the reason that I love radio, is because, and podcasting I think falls into this too, but you add context. If you were listening to the show and what happened, I watched you get the text. You described it in real time, and you said, "This is somebody that would probably know."
You were sitting right there.
I was sitting right here.
Yeah, right.
It didn't.
Wasn't even my show.
It didn't sound like PK.
Reporting, thus say
extra.
Right. Yeah.
Read all about it. It was just like, oh, this is why I'm here. This is Buzz. This is somebody that it was very much contextual. I don't think that would have happened from some listener running with it. You know what I mean?
Right. And I understand.
In this case,
myself.
In this case, Hatch. Way to go, Hatch.
Yeah.
No, I'm not throwing Hatch under the bus because it was
because he did to me.
But it was compelling. It was
he's in the other room listening.
It was compelling radio though because of the credibility and everything that you just
and I underestimated how
laid
people
out.
would respond to myself.
But he wrote it down and put it out there, and there's something about the written word that is very powerful.
Very
and
much
again,
so. It is the number one form of which we trust.
Gordon
would trust it or not.
Gordon would say the craziest stuff you've ever heard in your life, and it would all have this weird Gordon-like context on the radio, right? You know, but then he would write something similar, and all of a sudden the world's on fire, and it's like, well, it's just Gordon, but you put it in the word part, and it makes it's a different impact.
Oh yeah.
And I happen to think that the spoken word radio is much more personal. The written word feels much more official.
Agreed.
And it's got a different vibe to it. You know what I mean? And I think that's rung true throughout history, actually, not just
Gordon
media.
said something on the air that upset somebody in the sports world, and that person and people wanted an apology. And he said, okay. Well, then they wanted an apology in print. And he said, I didn't write it.
Yeah.
But somehow they wanted that.
That was Gordon doing a spot on your show.
It was.
And I'm so grateful. You know what? I was on vacation, and I remember opening up the email that said, we need to have a staff meeting. And it was the boss at the time.
I don't remember that part.
Everybody's name would know. I read the email, staff meeting, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of texted somebody or something and got the gist. And I was like,
I know.
And I was like, oh, I am so happy that I am on vacation.
And you didn't have to go?
Oh, no. What am I going to do? I'm on the other side of the country.
I don't know. I was on vacation once when there was an employee issue, and we rented bikes to drive in a city, and I didn't get to ride the bike because I had to sit there in the park with my bike parked next to me because we were having a staff conference call.
All right. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
And I had to, and I only got to ride the bike for half the time.
Well, if this were a conference call, maybe it'd be something else. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, as DJ said, one of the better things to come out of the awful pandemic was Zoom.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or whatever you use. Teams is what we use around
Teams,
here.
Teams, yeah. So you can have that opportunity.
Or go to meeting or whatever.
You don't have to necessarily be there to partake in it.
Oh, not to get too distracted, but my wife's whole company is work from home.
Entirely.
They have a little office space down in Sandy.
So she works at home and you come down?
Huh?
So you work here and she works at home?
Correct.
So she has a sandwich ready for you when you come home?
That is not the case. That is certainly not.
I'm just joking.
The case. But no, it did. It totally changed the world. And I guess to bring this full circle is the technology has totally changed the media.
You need to have a sandwich ready for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If anybody's making a sandwich, this guy, she's got like 10-minute windows in her day. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I'm the one who has time to make a sandwich.
Right, that's what I meant. Understood.
But she gets to look out the window into our backyard every day.
Sweet.
Because of that technology.
Way to go if you can swing that. I did that, though, during the pandemic, and I got bored with it.
I know. I couldn't do it. I talked to her all. She has the personality where she can do it, but I couldn't do it.
It's way more fun to come in.
Coming in during the pandemic was absolutely a gift.
And I didn't. I was
did.
home for 15 months.
Yeah, I remember. I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to come
It's
in.
more fun to deride and tease DJ in person.
100%.
Yeah.
No, and I tell people this all the time. Austin, our producer at the time, he and I wrote out the pandemic kind of together in separate rooms, but he was my interaction for months. You know what I mean?
The media's changed drastically, and it's up to you to decide what you consume and what you trust, and everybody's different.
So give me your read on the ACC thing then, especially after
I think it was chatter in the moment.
So you think fake news from your trusted guy there.
But if you see, was that really news, or was that just, hey, this is what I'm hearing? You know what I mean? Because at the same time, if you read the tweet or X post, he backed off on it. So I think there's some form of chatter. I've been saying this consistently. The bigger thing is when they went to the Pac-12, that was for eternity, and it sucked that it blew up. The Big 12 is not, nor can it be. Because once there is a division of the folks that are on the right side and the folks that are on the other side, it's illegitimate if Utah is not on that side. They belong playing big-time football, right?
Sure, whatever that is anymore.
Right, that's to be discussed. And Kyle Whittingham has spoken about this repeatedly.
But it ain't the ACC.
No.
Yeah.
No. That's why I'm saying there was chatter.
Yeah.
But it's going to, my point is, the Big 12 is not a lifetime destination. You hear, oh, this is my dream home. I'm going to live in it till they carry me out in a box. Right? That's what the Pac-12 was. Well, in the decade plus, 13 years or so, everything blew up.
Yeah. But where is it then? The Big Ten?
Well, I think it's some form of that. I don't know what. I had a great conversation, David Shaw's last year. I got to know him a little bit. Remember, we'd go down to Pac-12 media.
I was there for that, too.
He would recognize us, and we'd laugh about him coming in, stealing our Utah kids.
Great dude.
Yeah. And so I got to know him a little bit. He got comfortable with me, and we had an off-air conversation where he said he felt like that at some point, and this was before, maybe they'd already left. Maybe the LA schools had already left. But he said there'll be a time when there'll be a return to geographical normalcy to one degree or another. So I think that's where it's going to go, and it's going to look drastically different than what it looks like now.
Here's, though, my question whenever I hear people bring up regulation and somebody seen stepping into the room and doing something like that. Who's that going to be?
The leadership.
Which is who?
The management. The executive committee.
I mean, like, that's what I say with it. Anytime Ben brings up, well, the NIL needs to be better regulated and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who's going to do that? Who is going to do that? It's not going to be the NCAA.
No, I think it'll be the leadership of the two premier football conferences. And then
who are going to regulate themselves? I doubt it.
They'll regulate for what's in their best interest, and then the others will follow accordingly.
But that's no regulation at all. No regulation at all is what benefits who you're talking about. This whole shift has been about the haves trying to figure out a way to have more because they have all these benefits. Why would they limit themselves?
Won't be unchecked. That's what I hate.
Who's going to check it? That's my point.
I'll tell you. I understand. I got you. I hate power unchecked. I would never want a one-party system.
Oh, amen.
Even if I don't agree with the other party, I want them to be there, and I want a significant portion of those folks in power so they check each other, if nothing else. So what it'll be is you'll have those conference commissioners, conference presidents, yada, yada, those folks, plus you'll have television will have a huge say, and television will, in essence, check those guys because they'll have a significant say and they'll have their best interests. So you need people who have best interests of people beyond themselves, but they can't be in the same line of thinking. And I don't think you'll have the complete line of thinking from the television folks versus all the football folks. So that, I believe, and maybe it's Pollyannish, this is what I want because I love college football, that they'll have some form of coming together for what is best for the sport.
What college football folks?
I just said commissioners, university presidents, ADs, coaches.
ADs and presidents aren't necessarily aligned. Coaches and ADs certainly are not aligned. And the networks and the presidents/universities that matter are not. They are working hand in hand. They don't. What does ESPN care about regulating NIL or regionalness? They don't care. They just want.
Well, they want what's. I don't. Not about the NIL.
They want to put on the best TV product possible, and that involves.
That involves West Coast time slots out here. Why Utah played so many games approaching 8:30 because it was a good product. So you can't just have everybody over there and then these schools over here, they're going to receive pressure from their elected officials. Wait a second, man. We need more schools out here to balance it. We do not need our tennis and water polo teams traveling all over the country, because in 5 and 10 years, we're going to find out there's going to be studies shown of the negative effects on these young people having to get on planes all the time to go play a sport that nobody gives a crap about.
And here's my cynical take for you, because I don't agree with you about television networks, but you mentioned a word there, politicians. They're the ones that could actually do it, and I just don't have any faith in that happening.
But there'll be such a surge.
I hope so.
It's like,
I hope so.
Who regulated steroids in baseball? They didn't want to do it, but they were forced to do it.
Sure.
The public outcried.
I agree with you. I don't. There's no.
Joe Blow, 250 utility hitter, is hitting 47 home runs. The public didn't want that, so it corrected itself.
Except for the only one in the public who's grumpy or currently on this radio show. Everybody else seems to not care.
The game took care of itself. It cleaned itself up.
Yeah, but you mentioned the public outrage. Nobody, as David James would tell you, the television ratings have never been higher. The sport has never been more popular.
But yet there was an outrage. They cleaned it up. Congress got involved. I did not do steroids, blah, blah, blah.
There was an outrage about steroids.
Right.
There's not an outrage about this stuff in college sports.
Not yet. It'll continue to grow.
I hope so.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I can't predict exactly. This is my thought on it. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But that's my thought on as we continue to go. The public needs to have outrage, and then they bombard the elected officials, and then those folks take it from there, and it goes, and it's like a switchback on a hiking trail. You eventually get to the top, but you got to weave your way all up or down, whichever direction you're going.
Who is the most interesting coach you covered as a beat guy? Most interesting being the standard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Forever and ever?
Yeah, as a beat guy, you covered a lot of coaches. Who was the most interesting?
Well, there's a couple of high school coaches that rocked.
All right.
Nobody knows them because they weren't here. Bronco?
He was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
I love the guy.
Oh, I enjoyed every interaction I had with him. If you asked him a good question, he'd give you a good answer.
If he respected you, he treated you like gold.
The character he created was just kind of weird.
Agreed.
Yeah. But no, Bronco, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate you.
Sure.
You're the best. All right, that's PK. We'll have more coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. Let's go. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Bid, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us part of your day. Big thanks to the one and only Patrick Kinahan for sitting in there in the first segment. Appreciate him. We're going to talk to Jeremiah Jensen coming up at the top of the 11 o'clock hour from JJ and Alex and, of course, KSL Channel 5. We love Jeremiah. In fact, we love him so much that we're going to let him participate in What You Got Wednesday today. So we're moving What You Got Wednesday to about, I don't know, Christian, what do you say, like 11:15? You think?
Let's do 10 after.
10 after, so we have enough time to do it?
Oh, yeah.
And one of them we're really going to have to scrape. I mean, and Jeremiah might be at a serious advantage because we might be really, really scraping. In fact, Jeremiah might get drafted himself.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Today.
Yeah.
That may happen. So stay tuned for that. Jeremiah will join us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour, and we'll ask him about the latest sports news of the day, but we'll also get into What You Got Wednesday. And you came up with a really good sports one, Christian.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't done that one already. It's kind of a low-hanging fruit, but yeah, I won't spoil what it is. Stay tuned to hear it.
No, it's
going to be a fun one.
It is. And I should have researched it more yesterday, but I didn't. So I'm probably going to get smoked because Jeremiah is going to come in uber prepared because he's that type of guy. All right, Jeremiah, top of the 11 o'clock hour. But right now, top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations to serve you. One on Winchester Street across from Fashion Place Mall, the other at Traverse Mountain in Lehigh. All right, Christian, where are we starting today?
Story number 1, the Timberwolves stay alive with a Game 4 win.
Now, people will be tempted to say, well, it's a make-or-miss league, Jake. Minnesota shot 53% from the field and 46% from 3. And Dallas, only 42% from the field and 35% from 3. And why they may have a subtle point, I think it had way more to do with the way that Minnesota played, and specifically the way that Karl Anthony Towns played in the third quarter. Now, Minnesota was good enough to close the deal because Karl Anthony Towns picked up his 5th foul like 4 minutes into the third quarter or so. No, it was more than that. But he had basically single-handedly gone on a 10-0 run because he was taking the ball and he was running over his guy and he was scoring. And all of a sudden, a teeter-totter kind of game was tilting Minnesota's favor. Now, he hit his first three he took of the game in the third quarter. And he ended up 4 of 5, but he didn't take his first one till then. And he buried it. And all of a sudden, the guy, I believe you'll hear old vets talk about I remember, Matt Harpering talking about this, but it goes back before him. Jerry Sloan used to talk about this, but if you're having struggles shooting the ball, well, go get some easy ones. Go or get to the line, watch the ball go in the hoop. We could have Riley Jensen on to talk about the mental side of things, but, all of a sudden you get some tough baskets, you get a little success going, you're tilting the tide in your favor, and then you pull the trigger on that 3 and it goes down, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races. Now, Cat picking up the foul by trying to elbow somebody's head off, that was probably not the smartest move, Christian, that I've ever seen,
Yeah, especially when he'd been rolling the way he had.
Yeah,
been,
right. He kind of took himself out, which is too bad.
And that's unfortunate to see. But I mean, yesterday we talked about how awful he had been. Through the first 3 games. So clearly, him turning his game around was a key for the Timberwolves getting that win.
Now that was like the most egregious of his dumb fouls. At least 3 of his 6 fouls were absolutely dumb fouls. And you heard Anthony Edwards in the postgame kind of hilariously talk about it. I told you not to foul. And you've got to find the sweet spot where you can play physical and not foul out of the game, because it's not your physical play that is generating the fouls. It's the dumb fouls. So if you can cut that out and they can play physical, I don't know if they can win this series. I doubt it. I mean, it's obviously never happened, so the odds of it happening are slim to none. But I've been saying, it's Minnesota's shortcomings that have led to their hole in the series, and I thought they finally started to play more like they played against Denver, and that's not a coincidence that they won. And by the way, good for them for not rolling over. But yeah, Dallas will probably figure out a way to win one of these next 3 games, because that's just how the NBA is. So
yeah, and I do think, it's never happened before. It's bound to happen eventually. It's probably not going to happen right now because it is a lot easier for the Mavericks to win 1 game than the Timberwolves to win 4 games in a row. But it makes for an entertaining series, right?
It does. Well, hopefully. Anyway, more entertaining than a sweep would have been. All right, what's next?
Number 2, Utah Athletics has debunked the ACC rumors.
All right, we remember Dick Weiss, at Hoops Weiss, talked about speculation circulating about Utah shifting conferences again, possibly moving to the ACC. Well, Mark Harlan, via Brett McMurphy, basically put out a statement saying, quote, "We are proud to be entering into membership in the Big 12 Conference in the coming months and excited to join our new colleagues and member institutions. A report over the weekend suggested otherwise is completely fabricated and irresponsible. Fake news." Dick Weiss, you don't know what you're talking about, bro, is basically what Harlan threw out there, which I got to say, the language there at the end really drove it home for me as I saw this statement come out yesterday. Because I've read a lot of these statements over the years. Christian, I got to tell you, hundreds, if not thousands. And most of them are just like the first two sentences in this thing where it's like, we're excited about it. We're excited about these new institutions. They're just wonderful. We would never even, kind of implying, well, we're so happy. We would never even dream of talking to somebody else. But, in that fluffy language, you never actually deny anything.
It doesn't say anything. A lot of words that don't actually say anything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all the right things, but it's never really definitive. For Arlen to be like completely fabricated and irresponsible is pretty.
It's pretty definitive.
It's
what
pretty.
He's trying to say.
Yeah, it's pretty definitive for sure. But then again, Harlan was super definitive about the future of the Pac-12 and very aggressive in his language, going after people reporting otherwise. So, I mean, yes, this stands out to me, but it's also not the first time he's used that. I don't know about that strong of language, but pretty strong language about other reports out there that turned out to be completely legitimate.
There's no such thing as definitive anymore in the world of college sports. Like, you can sit here and act like you know what's going to happen in the next year or two, but the truth is, like, nobody does.
And you know what? The reason I will say this, the reason I tend to believe Harlan here, and not that I know anything about Dick Weiss, is that I just can't put together why. I mean, we talked about that a lot yesterday. Like, why?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It really would not make sense.
And I certainly don't know anything, but I mean, that seems. I follow the ACC really closely, and it's not where you want to go. You know what I mean?
Especially if you're in Salt Lake City. Like, why would you want to go compete on the Atlantic coast? Why would you want to go to Florida?
I mean, you couple with
the Carolinas and
Stanford and Cal and somehow make something work. But I mean, the ACC is pert near blown apart. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But DJ came up with a compelling argument about the TV interests, and we'll see. They obviously have much, if not all, of the say in the matter. All right, what's next?
The Jazz are rumored to be shopping that number 10 overall pick.
All right, Bleacher Report is reporting, and I'll just read right from the Utah Jazz are looking to find instant impact players this summer. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype reported the Jazz are expected to explore trading the number 10 pick in the 2004 NBA draft and some of their future first-round picks for star talent. That's in quotes. The movement is reportedly at the behest of Jazz owner Ryan Smith, who wants the team to start competing. And Michael Scotto's actually been on this show before. He's good. He's good at what he does. I find it interesting that he put star talent in quotes. Who are you quoting there, Michael?
Yeah, and that's...
And then he mentions Ryan Smith. It's at his behest, which, all right.
What does a star player mean? That's so vague. Like, is that Brandon Ingram? Like, is that something higher than that? I do think it's interesting, though, that they mention Ryan Smith, because then you get into the territory of should owners be involved in front office decisions like this.
I don't know that he is. See, now here is me being skeptical, and take this for some bozo on the radio's opinion. What do I know? But Danny Ainge is the one who's making all of these decisions, and I still believe that he would never have taken this job unless it was otherwise. However, Ryan Smith is an active owner, but he's also an owner who's concerned about, and again, pure speculation, but his image and the image of the team. So, you
especially after all the controversy so far.
Yeah. So you get a report out there that says, like, oh, the owner is really concerned, wants to start winning, and wants to be competitive, which actually is not untrue. I mean, what NBA owner out there doesn't want to be competitive?
Especially
you know what
Ryan
I mean?
Smith, who grew up a Jazz fan. And is very
absolutely. So it's not even like that's necessarily dishonest. I just don't think, in fact, it's not dishonest at all. But I don't think he's the one actually deciding. I think Danny Ainge. He's going to pick his moment, and then he's going to go for it. And I think that's as true today as it was yesterday. So I actually think that this is serving a different purpose. I don't think it's any news. You're telling me that if the Jazz could land a star player, the number 10 pick would be in play? Well, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like anybody who listened to the end of season presser that Danny H put out, the big game hunting thing.
Right.
And he mentioned that they don't really want to bring 3 additional under 20-year-old players onto this already extremely young roster. Like, yeah, this isn't
He's not lying.
Right.
Yeah, that's not new. It's, it's what you brought up, though, is it the meddlesome owner? Because that usually ends badly. I don't think so. I think it's an owner who is very much visible. And you are that as the owner of any sports franchise. You're very much visible, and your opinion very much matters in things that actually don't pertain to sports sometimes. But Larry Miller used to come on the station weekly, and it was must-listen radio because the owner of the team is making commentary about the team. And in Larry's case, it was always very emotional, and it was very pro-Jazz, and Larry himself wasn't afraid to be critical, but in a kind of a I expect a lot out of you kind of way, not like a hater kind of way, but like a
proud father,
like a proud father kind of way, as cliche as that sounds. But Larry was very much visible, and his opinion was very much relevant, But Larry, even though he was more hands-on than people probably knew, Larry also got out of the way and let his basketball people make the best basketball decisions. And he'd get involved in things like his contract negotiations with his star players and that sort of stuff. But, outside, scouting, talk to guys like Richard Smith that worked for him for years and how they were allowed to do their job and that sort of thing. And Jerry always used to talk about it. But it didn't make him, he's not hiding in the shadows. I mean, he was very much the face of the franchise, and his opinion very much mattered. And it was always very pro-Jazz and very much fan-like. He used to listen to, I used to do these post-game shows for the Jazz, even though we weren't the home of the Jazz. And we'd do it after home games. And Larry would come up and talk to me about the show I had, which was amazing, which was incredible. And he'd be like, I think you were way wrong about this and this and this. But it was very much the
He's engaged in the conversation.
I'm engaged in the conversation. Yeah, like that sort of thing. It was not. But anyway, the point is that Ryan Smith's opinion matters. That's probably Ryan Smith's opinion. That's the best opinion to get out to Jazz fans because they're feeling the exact same way. But the point of hiring somebody like Danny Ainge is somebody who's going to do it right, because Ryan's also, and again, not to speak for the man, but not lying when he says his ultimate goal is to win a championship. So what do you got to do to win a championship? You hire one of the best general managers to do it, and you empower him to do it. And so I still think that's the score of the game. But it doesn't surprise me that Ryan Smith would say, yeah, we're trying to win. I believe he very much believes that. But it is very much not news to say, well, the 10th pick could be in play if a star player could be landed. Well, yeah, you don't say.
Keith Smith was on yesterday. I mean, he talked about it a little bit, that him and his guys over there at the show he does, they think there could be some big trades this summer. Yeah. So, yeah, if there are, the Jazz are going to be in play.
Right. Keith was great, by the way. You can go back and podcast that. He's always really good. All right, we're way over. We'll get to more coming up next. Don't forget Jeremiah Jensen at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. It's Jake and Ben. No Ben today. He'll be back next week. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Benjamin's vacation continues on. He'll be back next week. Want to remind you about the Hercules Hero of the Week. Nominate the sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to some guy named JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union. Joining us now, he's the co-host of that show. You can also see him every night on KSL Channel 5, the one and only Jeremiah Jensen. What's up, JJ?
Jake, what's up? How you doing? I am also, I've got a partner on vacation, so me and you are team no days off.
I'm shocked. Alex never leaves.
Guy really needs to take a day off, right?
I mean, he does. He works hard. No, we're joking, of course, and glad Ben can get a little R&R. And JJ,
Absolutely.
you have basically 2 jobs, so I don't think you get vacation, but that's just you.
No days off.
Nah, it's cool. You know, you guys make it happen. Put out a great product, and that's why we love you. And you're willing to come on this show, and you're willing to do What You Got Wednesday today, which we'll get to shortly, which I'm very excited about. All right, what did you think about Minnesota staying alive last night? Give me your overall takeaways.
Not surprised. That team was too good to go down in a sweep. I love that they showed some fight, and they finally played to the potential that we thought they would in this series. And I think the X factor was Karl Anthony Towns, because when Karl Anthony Towns is doing what he does and he makes shots specifically from the three-point line, the Timberwolves are very tough to beat. He did not do that in the first 3 games. Going 0 for 8 in Game 3 was devastating for them. The first 3 games were close. They were battles all the way through. So it finally clicked for Karl Anthony Towns, and I thought that was the difference last night. It was you finally got enough offense from Towns to counter the offense that the Mavs have been getting from Luka and Kyrie. Kyrie was a little more human yesterday. That helped as well. But the Timberwolves are a really good team. They showed a lot of fight. Anthony Edwards is a superstar, and they finally got all-star level play from Karl Anthony Towns, which was missing in the first 3 games.
I totally agree. You know why he played tough? He went to the basket in the third quarter. You know how you get your 3 going? Well, you dunk in somebody's face. You know, see the ball go through the hoop a couple of times, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, I remember how to do this. I totally agree with you. I think the key was him for sure. And the way let me run this by you, Jeremiah. The reason Minnesota was failing in the series had way more to do with Minnesota, in my opinion, than it did Dallas. And I thought the Timberwolves actually played like they did against Denver for the first time in the series.
100% agree. And I also say this, the problem for the Timberwolves was their offense. It was not efficient enough. As I mentioned, Karl Anthony Towns not scoring enough. Anthony Edwards wasn't like what you'd expect in those first 3 games. His energy level wasn't what it was last night. He was dynamic yesterday. He was talking. I love that they mic'd him up during the game, because you got to tap into just exactly how much energy he was generating out on the court, constantly talking. It didn't feel like, at least it didn't feel like, I could be wrong, that energy wasn't present in the first 2 or 3 games of the series from Anthony Edwards. So you get better offense from the Timberwolves, and you get a more average day from the Mavericks. The Mavericks shot 50% from 3 in Game 3. That's really hard to do in the playoffs against the best defensive team in the league. So there was a couple factors that led to this 3-0 start for the Mavericks, and there was some factors that caused the Timberwolves to struggle the first 3 games. I use lightly because they didn't play terrible. The Mavericks were better and made more plays. But, yes, I agree. I think there was just a little few things that the Timberwolves were able to tweak, getting Karl Anthony Towns to be better, Anthony Edwards more efficient, and that was the difference. I don't think the gap between these 2 teams is 3-0. I never thought that. I think this series and the results play out. These games have been close. So the Timberwolves are not dead. You're going back to Minnesota. I'm not predicting they're going to come back from 3-0. It's never happened, but this is probably going to come down to a Game 6 in Dallas, and that's going to be really interesting because I think the Timberwolves go home and win.
All right, I want your take on this purse fight between Mark Harlan and what's this guy's name? Dick Weiss. Dick Weiss reported that Utah's flirting with the ACC, basically. And then Mark Harlan released a denial yesterday. But the end of the denial suggested that the report was completely fabricated and irresponsible, which I thought was quite a point to put on the end there. What's your thought on this whole thing?
Weird. I didn't think much when I saw it pop up. You know, we're on Twitter. You see college football realignment crap all the time. There's people that have tried to make careers out of it, just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see if it'll stick. I don't think this was the case. I imagine he had a conversation with somebody. Dick Weiss is a reputable reporter, works for the New York Daily News. He's not some crazy weirdo just trying to get attention on Twitter. So I was surprised that he posted it and shared it. He must have heard it from somebody. But it's not like he published it in his paper or anything. He just threw something out there on Twitter. I'm really surprised that that Utah Athletics saw felt like they needed to respond to a tweet, which that was weird to me. Like I would have just ignored it. Like me as a TV and radio reporter, I kind of ignored it. I was like, yeah, that's interesting, but I don't think there's much to that. That doesn't make any sense. But for Utah to have to come out and make a statement about a tweet, that was odd to me, which tells me maybe there was something to it. Maybe there has been some conversations. They deny it. That's fine. I totally understand why they would deny it. I also understand why any school in this country should be having conversations with everybody, because what happened to some of the schools that were like willing to go down with the ship with the Pac-12? I mean, look where Washington State and Oregon State are right now, and Cal and Stanford are in a good place. Do you want to go down with the ship, or do you want to be a leader of the pack? I mean, you got to have these conversations. I can tell you, I'm sure right now, this is my opinion. I don't know where Utah is with this, but if the Big Ten came calling, Utah would be gone tomorrow. Because everybody wants to be in the SEC and the Big Ten, because those are the two power leagues right now where the money's at and where the future's at. So it's not crazy. It's not odd to think that they'd be having conversations elsewhere. I don't think it makes sense. I think they're making more money in the Big 12 and the ACC. Why would you want to travel all over across the country and play in that time zone all the time when you're playing regional rivalries now in the Big 12? It doesn't make sense to move, but have the conversations. Why not? I don't see a problem with that, and I don't see why you have to be like we're so defensive about it either. So yeah, the whole thing's odd. I don't know where the facts are in it, but it was certainly interesting to see the whole thing play out, and it tells me that maybe there was something to that report.
Maybe. I'm with you all the way, because that did stand out to me too, that they would release a statement. That kind of was like, oh, okay.
Why?
But here, let me throw this at you, and you can tell me if I'm crazy, and then we'll play What You Got Wednesday. But Jeremiah I'm assuming when you grew up in Star Valley, Wyoming, that you went to high school dances, no?
Oh, of course. You betcha. All the time. What else were you going to do in Star Valley, Wyoming?
For a girl's choice dance, were you ever her second choice?
Oh, I'm sure.
Did she treat you like you were her second choice, or did she treat you great and happy, and despite the fact that she was your second choice, she was excited to be there with you?
I know what you're getting at. Many dances went with somebody who was probably wanting to be with somebody else, whether I asked them or they asked me.
Right.
And we had a good time.
Yeah.
But would they have rather gone with somebody a little bit better looking, a little bit, higher status on the football or basketball team? Probably, yeah. I get what you're saying,
and
for sure.
Mark Harlan made no secret that Utah's preference, and in fact, by calling out members of the media, which he did again, but that their preference was to stay in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 was healthy, and the Big 12 was obviously their second choice. And so I actually think this is Mark Harlan saying, no, we're excited to be here with you, man. This is going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And you know what? They probably will. They probably will have a healthy relationship going forward, and it'll be great, and we'll get to know all this other stuff. But, I mean, he kind of made it very public that their first choice was to do something else. So I think he kind of had to do this to say, no, we really want to be here.
You have to. Look, politics play a role in everything. Yeah. And this is the situation they're in right now. And I think they should be thrilled that they're in this situation and not in the ACC or not in the Pac-2.
I totally
they're
agree.
not Pac-3. And so I don't know. I'm not up there. I can't answer that for them. But this is a good situation for right now. But we've seen how things are going to change. They could get their prime situation somewhere down the road. We don't know that. But for right now, they've found a really nice landing spot. And as far as football is concerned, they're in a place where they can get into the college football playoff, win this league with this team this year. So they're in a great spot. They should be thrilled with this date, even though it maybe wasn't their first preference, to your analogy.
What's a fancy place to take a gal back in the day in Wyoming to a dinner for dance? You hit the hometown buffet?
Pizza Hut or the Red Baron Drive-In.
Oh, dude, Pizza Hut. Both of those are actually sneaky cool as a dance date dinner idea. You know what I mean?
Back when we were kids, if you get cheesy breadsticks and some pizza, you were all happy. So no problem with that.
All right.
Yeah, no. At least when I lived there, maybe they have some better restaurant selections now in 2024. I hope they do.
I cannot tell you how much I would want to go back to an old Pizza Hut with the red roof on the building and the
weird salad bar.
Yeah, and the Miss Pac-Man game that was in every single one of them. You know what I mean?
Yep, the arcade, 100%. You're taking me back.
Somehow that pizza was just incredible. Like you can order it at home and it was like, oh, it kind of tastes like it, but then you would go there and it'd be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever had.
Piping hot with an inch of cheese on top. Heck yeah.
Incredible. I agree. All right, let's get to What You Got Wednesday. Jeremiah is going to participate. If you are new to the show, Ben and I usually compete with 2 5-selection drafts on 2 different topics, one sports related and one not. I don't even want to look at last week's results because it doesn't matter because Ben's not here. So Jeremiah gets the first pick in both drafts as a guest because we're polite on this show. So what is our sports related question today?
So for our sports draft, we're going to do the best fictional athletes of all time. Movies and TV, of course, any sort of fiction, books even, if you're into that.
Okay. I wasn't thinking, well, because there's some good book ones out there that maybe I wasn't thinking. A little curveball. All right, Jeremiah, first of all, Ben always asks this, and I'm always curious, is there an obvious number 1 pick, do you think?
I think so, yes. For fake athlete, absolutely.
So fictional athlete, the number 1 pick is?
For me, it's Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry.
No, that felt kind of obvious. I agree with you.
I'll go more obscure as we get down here.
No, I think that's it. I think that's the number 1 pick. I 100% do. So my first pick, I'm going to go with my heart then, Jeremiah, because I don't think there's an obvious number 2. Maybe you disagree. But I'm going to go with my heart and pick Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn from the movie Major League. My favorite sports movie, best sports comedy, I think, of all time, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn.
No question about that. Major League is an all-time great movie. My turn now. I'm going to go Happy Gilmore.
Are you as bad as I am that they're making a stupid sequel like 30 years later?
They're ruining the first one.
Yeah.
All for money. Come on, Adam Sandler. You know better.
Yeah.
Come on, Netflix.
Totally agree. Absolutely. Which way to go now? I got to go with this, Jeremiah, because I do think there are very few good football movies out there. I'm going to go with Rudy.
Okay.
Rudy
couldn't get on the
Rudiger.
field until they gave him a snap at the end of his career, but very inspirational athlete for sure.
Well, actually, does that count? Because Rudy was a real person, even though that was a very fictionalized story. You know what? I'm going to
It's a movie. It's a movie.
Are we good with it? Do you want to? Because I'll go with somebody else. He's a person.
I think the story is probably like 10% true. So yeah, you could go with that.
Christian?
I'd say that's fair.
All right. Good enough.
Okay, my third pick. Oh boy, this is tough. Daniel LaRusso.
Oh, the Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid.
Has had
incredible. The crane kick is one of the all-time great movie moves in movie sports history.
And kind of had a rebirth, right? With isn't there like a Netflix series or something that's?
Oh yeah, yep. Johnny's series.
All right, let's see where to go. I'll go with this because I love this movie. This will get me no votes, but I love this movie. Roy Hobbs from The Natural.
There you go. That's a good choice. That's
Bob
a great
Redford,
choice.
man.
About Roy Hobbs.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit a home run that hit the lights. I mean, that was incredible.
Great movie.
It was. Number 4 pick for me, Scott Howard, also known as Teen Wolf.
Okay. All right.
Has anyone ever gone nuts? I mean, he's like Anthony Edwards before Anthony Edwards. You know what I mean? Like, Have you ever seen anyone jump that high and dunk and just completely take over a game? I'm going Teen Wolf.
Who knew Michael J. Fox could play like that?
5'4" and he can dunk. It's just incredible.
All right, I'm going with another one because I love this movie so much. I'm going to go with Kelly Leak from the Bad News Bears.
Oh, there you go.
Remember
Bad News Bears. I like that.
The like 10-year-old that smoked cigarettes and rode a motorcycle.
You could also go with Amanda Wurlitzer, the pitcher.
Yeah, no, she was probably the star of she was the most consistent star of the team.
Yes.
But yeah, how about that? Walter Matthau celebrated for getting drunk around children.
Only in the 70s. Only in the 70s. Gotta love it. There's a lot I could go with. I got one pick left.
Is this it?
Yeah, you each have one pick left.
Oh my gosh, I could go. Oh, maybe I don't want to give them. I could go Dottie Hinson. I could go Ricky Bobby, Monica Wright, Benny the Jet Rodriguez. But you know what? I'm going to go obscure. I'm also going 70s. A Disney movie. Nanu from The World's Greatest Athlete is my last pick. Could have been my first.
All right. That's good. All right, I'm going with this too. Because I love this movie so much. Ty Webb from Caddyshack.
There you go. That's awesome. You got a Caddyshack in the top
Gotta get
five.
Caddyshack. I couldn't decide whether to go with Chevy Chase or Rodney Dangerfield, so I'll go with Chevy. He was the better golfer.
I think we both had a pretty solid 5 there. That's a really good team.
All right, let's review.
Alrighty, JJ had the first pick. He went Rocky Balboa, Happy Gilmore, Daniel LaRusso, Scott Howard, and Nanu. Jake, you went Ricky, Wild Thing Vaughn, Rudy, Roy Hobbs, Kelly Leak, and Ty Webb.
Oh, it's going to be a battle, Jeremiah.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be a battle.
I mean, Rocky can't be defeated, so I'd probably win, but it'll be close.
Rocky was the pick. Yeah, you got the number one was kind of not arguable. All right, what is our not sports?
So the not sports draft today, we're going to go with people with Wyoming ties as a nod to JJ. We were originally going to do people born in Wyoming, but that list is so small we had to expand it a little bit.
It's still quite small.
It's still pretty small. So anybody with a significant tie to Wyoming.
And we can debate whether it counts or not. All right, we can if there's a controversial one, we can debate. Because I found one list out there that was just like, well, this person passed through town one day, and I was like, I don't think that's gonna work.
Wilford Brimley once stopped in my town to buy some soda, so
there
you can even throw him out there.
All right, Jeremiah, you have the number one pick.
Again, okay. Well, I think I've got to go Kanye West, who owns a ranch near Cody.
Yeah, Kanye has taken a step toward infamy. I'm gonna go with this because I'm a big fan. Jackson Pollock.
Nice. Went artist. I'm gonna go Harrison Ford with my second pick. Harrison Ford has owned a ranch for a long, long time in Jackson Hole.
See, your hometown knowledge is really going to be an advantage.
I have a huge advantage in this category. I'm not going to lie.
You do, yeah, which is exactly why we picked it. All right, I'm going to say Josh Allen.
Excellent pick. Excellent pick. I'm going to go actor, somewhat obscure from the 80s. Was on a lot of game shows. I think he was on Too Close for Comfort. Jim J. Bullock, who is a native of Casper, Wyoming.
Nice. Man, you might get drafted here, Jeremiah, if you're not careful.
There's enough. There's enough.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take one of our local guys, and you know what? He played in the NFL, and he was also a member, although he didn't play, of a Super Bowl winning team. Didn't play because he was injured, not because he was. But I'm going to go with the one and only Brady Papinga.
Excellent choice out of Evanston, Wyoming. I'm going to go with another Evanston native with my fourth pick.
Yep.
J.C. Carroll.
It's a good one.
Once scored 50 points in a high school game in Wyoming.
No, that's a good one. I'm going to go with not Joe, but his old man, John Buck.
Nice. Excellent pick.
Kemmerer.
That's right, Kemmerer, Wyoming. He now lives in Bluffdale, here in Utah.
Oh, get out of town.
Boy, I've got one pick left.
Yep, you guys are both on your last pick.
Okay, so, I mean, Dick Cheney's easy, but I don't want to do politics.
You'd have a controversial list with Kanye and Dick Cheney.
I know. I don't need that. I don't need that heat today. So I'm gonna go Kurt Gowdy, the legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster, with my final pick.
All right. Now I'm debating between two. Do I go for my personally or one that I'm going to get votes is the question. You know what? I'm going to go with mine personally. Theo Ratliff.
Nice.
Man, I love Theo Ratliff in the 90s. Baller. Always thought it was cool. He played at the University of Wyoming. So Theo Ratliff.
Excellent choice. Also could have gone with Fennis Dembo.
Very nice. I almost went with Pretty Lights because the kids like the electronic music. And
That's
apparently he was born in Sheridan, Wyoming. What is the part of Wyoming that all of the other parts of Wyoming look down on?
Rollins. That's where the penitentiary is. If you've ever driven through on I-80, you've driven through Rollins and you haven't stopped. I guarantee you that.
You're not stopping. I bet Star
See
Valley
how quickly
was.
I answered that question?
Yeah, you knew.
See, I believe that Wyoming purposely put I-80 where they did so you wouldn't see the pretty part of the state so people stay out.
Hey, there you go. That's a good, that's a good tactic. I bet Star Valley was a super cool place to grow up.
Unbelievable. So, and right now is the best time of year. Summers, you go to the lake, you drive your four-wheeler, your motorcycle, wherever you want. Tons of stuff to do. It's so much fun in the summer.
Is your family still up there?
No, we've all left.
Everybody's moved. I was going to say, to have an excuse to go back, I got to go to Star Valley this summer. Got to visit family,
I've got to make an excuse, even though I don't have family left there. So it's a beautiful place. Those of you who know, you know.
All right, let's review here, Christian. Let's take a look at these lists.
JJ had the first pick again. He went Kanye West, Harrison Ford, Jim J. Bullock, J.C. Carroll, and Kurt Gowdy.
All right.
Jake, you went Jackson Pollock, Josh Allen, Brady Papinga, John Buck, and Theo Ratliff.
I went heavy on the sports. Got an artist and then heavy on the sports. I liked our local connection there, though. I think those two needed to go.
Absolutely.
And it did. It did come down to
JC and Brady on the list, no doubt.
Well, it did come down to you or Theo Ratliff, and I thought, I can't.
Yeah, you made the right choice.
Oh, are you kidding, JJ? You're a star of what am I looking for? Radio and screen, not stage and screen. Maybe you're doing plays.
You're really stretching there. Theo Ratliff blocked a lot more shots than I did.
Well, yeah, he was a machine. You kidding?
He really was good.
Jeremiah, you are so great to come on and participate. That was a lot of fun. Appreciate you, and we'll certainly be dialed in this afternoon.
Hey, that was a blast. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. And, enjoy the rest of the week. That was fun.
All right, buddy. You too. There's Jeremiah Jensen. You can hear him, JJ and Alex, every single afternoon. Alex, I believe, out today, which I would guess that means Sly is filling in. He usually does, and Sly's really, really great with those guys when he has a chance to fill in. So make sure you tune into that. And, of course, watch Jeremiah on KSL Channel 5 each and every evening. As I know you do, Christian, because you're contractually required to do it, but everybody else should. They monitor Christian's TV. It's a new thing.
Yeah, I got in trouble once for not watching.
Didn't watch
enough.
Got
suspended.
Turned it off during the weather. Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. Jake and Ben, big thanks to Jeremiah, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you, fight fans, the Professional Fighters League is making its debut in Salt Lake City, June 21st at the Huntsman Center with jaw-dropping knockouts to lightning submissions. Every fight promises to be an adrenaline-fueled spectacle. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Christian, quick thing, interaction on Twitter on What You Got Wednesday. And you can always leave a call-in on the call-in feature on the KSLSports.com app. We can get to some of those later in the show if you want to weigh in. But we did What You Got Wednesday with Jeremiah Jensen. Thanks to Jeremiah for filling in. Our friend Colton suggests we missed out on now I'm going blank. What was Adam Sandler's football character?
Bobby Boucher.
Bobby Boucher.
Yep.
We missed on Bobby Boucher.
There are a few that, there's so many great ones, right? Like, it's hard to nail just 10, especially if you want to get into, like, Like you did, like some of your favorite movies and stuff.
Like I thought Casey at the Bat, would that? I mean, because if we brought in literature, everybody knows Casey at the Bat. But anyway, Bobby Boucher, did you like that movie?
Yeah, it's a classic.
It's funny.
Do you like it?
It's okay. The one part I just thought was the funniest thing I've ever seen was Lawrence Taylor standing in front of everybody and goes, "All right, guys, now one piece of advice: don't smoke crack." Like, cause
it's great advice.
I saw that movie in the movie theater, and I swear to you, Lawrence Taylor was arrested for smoking crack like a week before I saw the movie. So it was like very topical. Kids don't smoke crack.
Very meta.
Thank you. And then our friend Jim Stedman said, "Come on, Jake, no Nikki Sixx." I had no idea Nikki Sixx had a connection to Wyoming, so I Googled it, and I still can't find one. He was born in California, San Jose to be exact. Nikki Sixx is still with us somehow. Are you a Motley Crue fan?
Not the biggest. I mean, I've heard some songs. Did you watch the show? It was about the drummer. And
when he went back to Tommy Lee when he went back to college?
No, Tommy Lee. They make like a kind of like a bio show about Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson. It came out like last summer.
Oh, did it? That. No, I have not seen it.
It was all right. It was entertaining.
Tommy Lee, interesting guy. Nikki Sixx, also an interesting guy. Vince Neil, I once watched. He was opening for Poison once out at now America First Credit Union Amphitheater, but at the time USANA. And he was so drunk, he forgot all of the words to Kickstart My Heart and just stumbled around. I've seen performers at concerts, so I thought, you know what? They probably had a few beers before the show, they look a little loose. He's the only example I can think of that somebody that was so visually wasted. I mean, should not have been.
What was the rest of the band like? Were they like confused?
I don't even remember. It was one of those. It was so bad that it was like not even. I'm going to stick around and watch how bad this is. It was like, okay, if there's a time to go to the John, it's now. But I had no idea Nikki Sixx had some sort of connection to Wyoming. All right, I want to talk a little bit more about the rumor out there. Michael Scotto from Hoops Hype is talking about the Jazz, saying they're expected to explore trading the number 10 pick in the this year's draft and some of their future first-round picks for, quote, star talent, unquote. The movement is reportedly at the behest of Jazz owner Ryan Smith, who wants the team to start competing. And we talked about this a little bit early on in the show. I mean, this is not, I don't think, a really shock of a report. I mean, I know people are running out there with the Jazz are active. They're going to move that number 10 pick. And this all strikes me as kind of a, no duh. And I think the interesting part is that Jazz owner Ryan Smith wants the team to start competing. That also kind of rings as a really no duh, but it is kind of why would they get this out now? But what I want to focus on is what would qualify for, quote, star talent, unquote.
Yeah, it's hard because, I mean, you can take any player after a stretch of good games and it's like, oh, they're a star, And star, is it like top 20 player, top 30, top 40? And then that's when you start getting into this conversation of, yeah, what does that word mean?
Now,
and who will be available that fits that word?
And is it top whatever now? Or is it top whatever in the future?
Is it a rising star? Is it a star in their prime to go with Lowry?
Do you have vision for somebody that maybe somebody else doesn't? I mean, that's what's interesting about this whole thing, because like the Jazz have been connected in some reports in some way, shape, or form to DeJounte Murray, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't count to me as a star player. But do they think that maybe Atlanta is totally using this guy wrong and he's actually a top 10 player that just hasn't been utilized right throughout his career? I wouldn't predict that, but maybe they do.
And it's like I just brought up Lowry, like that kind of happened with him, right? Was he a throwaway in that deal, like an extra add-on to match salaries? Or did the Jazz say, hey, we think we could squeeze something out of this guy?
That nobody else saw.
Right. And how many players can you realistically do that with?
So it's an interesting question to me because my mind goes immediately to, well, if Giannis becomes available, they'll be active for him, or Luka, or whatever the cast of characters that are rumored out there. If Joel Embiid finally gets tired of Philadelphia, well, that's one thing. But like if we think about the Jazz history, they drafted Deron Williams, but they had a vision for Carlos Boozer. And Cleveland thought Carlos was good, too, to their credit. I mean, that's why they wanted to circumnavigate the rules to re-sign him, and the Jazz took advantage of that. It was controversial back in the day. But the Jazz saw Carlos Boozer as a future star. He'd only had 2 years in the league, I believe, but they said, we're going to pay this guy $60 million or whatever it was at the time, basically a max deal, to come to Utah and to be the next power forward under Jerry Sloan, to be a star. They saw that. They didn't trade for – Carlos eventually made all-star teams and Olympic teams, but they didn't trade for an all-star player. They traded for somebody they thought would be an all-star. And I thought that was interesting because that broadens the scope to me. And maybe that is news. That would make it seem more narrow, but for some reason it made it seem more broad to me. Star talent. What is that? Maybe they think Keontae George is star talent. But I can't decide if this makes a move more likely or less likely in my mind. It probably doesn't change anything. But I wonder that star talent term I think can be a little bit more broad than it seems right away.
Yeah, one thing I want to kind of look at is that tweet. Does it mention Lauri Markkanen? Does it mention? No. Okay, so I think that's when you get into timelines, right? Do you want to go after somebody who could be a star in maybe 2 seasons, and by that time Lowry's probably entering the end of his prime or out of his prime?
Right.
Or do you want to go find somebody who can slide in right next to Lowry, and that's hard?
And maybe that's why DeJounte is interesting, because he's in Lowry's window. Because nothing the Jazz are doing right now is in Lowry's quote-unquote window.
Right, and that's why it's kind of been such a mess. It's because I think Lowry emerging the way that he did kind of screwed up the whole rebuild process.
Which is why they honestly
screwed up in maybe a good way, yeah.
Yeah, or why they should flip him. They should either sign him and then trade him, or sign him and start to make moves to surround him. And maybe that's something that the Jazz are more interested in than we know. But the point we made earlier, Christian, I think is the ultimate point. It's Danny Ainge's decision, and he'll pull the trigger when he's ready. And Ryan Smith, I'm sure, has his opinions and wants to put his best foot forward. But you don't hire a guy like Danny Ainge to, then tell him what to do. If you were hiring,
he's not going to come be second in command.
No, if like Rob Pelinka, that's somebody you hire when you want him to just be a suit. To just say, yes, sir, Mr. LeBron. Yes, sir. What can we do for you, Mr. James? That's not Danny Ainge, and never has been. So
no, he's done it twice in Boston. Yeah. You bring him here to Utah to do the same thing now.
Exactly. And he's probably not taking the job because he's not young anymore. He's not desperate for a job. He's probably not taking the job unless you're going to let him do the job, which is, by the way, the absolute smart thing to do. And of course, Ryan Smith wants to win. If for no other reason, he likes to sell tickets, which nothing sells tickets like winning. So he's trying to get a digital, streaming platform off the ground. He needs people to subscribe so he can produce content. I mean, all these things are all valuable. So of course he wants to win sooner rather than later.
Nobody wants to buy Jazz Plus if they're winning 30 games a year.
But I don't think he's going to kick Danny's or Justin Zanuck for that matter. I don't think he's going to kick in their door one day, be like, that's it. Because that's when bad decisions are made. When teams are desperate, that's when bad decisions are made, where you have to go get somebody. It's why the Lakers continually make just dreadful decisions, because you've got to surround LeBron with a better team, and then you make bad move after bad move, and the next thing you know, you're in the play-in scenario and getting bounced out. I mean, you don't want to make desperate moves, and I don't think the Jazz will. But that is interesting. Interesting fodder for the Sports Talk airwaves. All right, stay tuned. We wrap up the show. Get you ready for Hans and Scotty G coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us? No!
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airwaves, talking sports. They got it made, Jensen on soul. Loves this tie guy.
Y'all got any questions for Mike? Nobody want to ask me about Mike? Bye.
How about Mike, especially in the first half? It seemed like he really
is old as and he was getting downhill, laying the ball up. So shout out to Bite, and he coming in here with these clown pants on. So y'all about to see him in a minute, but that's my OG, that's my point guard. He played great tonight, and I couldn't ask nothing more from him. So thank you, Mike Conley.
Oh, man, I just love Anthony Edwards. That guy is just great. Talking about Mike Conley. He's old. Mike's old. That's hilarious. But in a good-natured way, of course. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you to get the official debit cards of the Utah Jazz, University of Utah Sports, Real Salt Lake, and more exclusively at America First Credit Union. Christian, were you into juvenile pranks or things of that nature? What's the most juvenile thing you've ever done?
I was not. I was very much a goody two-shoes and scared of getting in trouble. So
come on, you toilet papered a house or something once.
Actually, I don't think I ever toilet papered a house. I think the most I ever did was we threw water balloons at people. Like we were at a bed of a truck, and we would like drive by and throw water balloons at people.
Wow, that seems mean.
But I never toilet papered. I feel like that's worse.
Okay. Than assaulting somebody on the street, sure. But we can both agree that these juvenile things are really dumb, right?
Yeah,
They're really, really dumb. And if you've ever had it done to you, it's kind of like, well, I'm really annoyed. I got to clean this up. But like, oh, you kids,
Yeah,
like
my house got toilet papered and my parents were PO'd.
But it's not the end of the world.
Right. Clean it up and whatever.
You're grumpy and then you get on with life, right? Did you see this story? Dateline, South Korea. That South Korea has accused the North Korean regime of sending balloons containing garbage and animal feces into its territory. Over 260 inflated balloons with plastic bags tied to them had been detected on Wednesday, according to the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
How many? 250?
260? 260 balloons. Like, this is a country doing it to another country.
Is that a
at
thing?
some point,
like
I know that
pranks on your neighbor.
That Kim Jong-un isn't the most, the greatest leader in the world.
Yeah, they got to be careful. They're gonna start.
But even he's got to go like, guys, somebody comes to him with this plan, and he's got to be like, guys, this is a little juvenile. What are we, 12? I mean, this is what we're gonna do. Like, you're not coming to me with some sort of, okay, we've got this plan for economic espionage or something like that. No, we're going to infiltrate this and discover their secret. None of that. It's just like, hey, boss, we've got a great idea. We've got these balloons. We're going to fill them with stuff. They're not going to like it. We're going to float it over the border.
Maybe it was like hey, boss, we've got all this extra garbage and
Let's just get it out.
How do we get rid of
Get
it?
it out.
It's like, oh, yeah, just send it.
I got a great idea.
Send it downriver.
I got a great idea. We'll float it over South Korea and let them deal with it.
That is funny because definitely, not to get political, but North Korea doesn't seem like the type of country to play pranks.
Well, they're like doing nuclear tests all the time and floating poop-filled balloons over their enemies. I mean, take that, South Korea. Do you think South Korea is like, it's just like if you got your house toilet paper, it's like, oh, you guys, we got to clean that up.
Dang it.
Got to get out there and clean that crap up, quite literally.
Ayo.
But yeah, it's nothing more than an inconvenience. It's like, how old are you, Kim Jong-un? Are you 10? I'm disappointed that you have never toilet papered a house, Christian. It's never too late to start.
Is it? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is it too late now?
No, you can still go out there and get after it.
I might have to.
I can give you Lloyd's address.
Yeah. That'll be my
I'll
first
go
target.
with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we could do it together.
I doubt he's listening right now. He's not going to know what hit him.
Oh, even if he does, what's he going to do about it?
And the best part is he'll be like, he'll never assume it's us.
Oh, never. Of course not.
He'll think it was some dang kids.
Those kids. Quick bit of news before we get out of here and turn things on over to Scotty and Hans. Did you see that all charges against Scotty Scheffler have been dropped?
I was reading that. Yeah, that came up, I believe, while JJ was joining us, and That had to be coming sooner or later, right?
After
that video came out?
Yeah, which one? I mean, there's a bunch of them. Like with him talking to the cop, and the cop's like, hey, that police officer has a scrape.
Yeah, the one that showed him doing nothing wrong, and then the cop running up and banging on his window and showing like that nothing happened.
Sure glad they caused a huge scene, like a worldwide story.
So since charges are dropped, I'm assuming Scheffler doesn't have a criminal record.
Oh,
anymore,
no.
Right?
If they drop the charges, they drop the charges. I mean, I guess there would be a record of his arrest, which seems stupid. And I don't think his mugshot or his fingerprints go away anytime soon. But, like...
At least we get some cool shirts from the mugshot.
It's so stupid. I still can't believe that they made him put on the orange jumpsuit.
No.
How long is that guy going to be in there?
When you brought that up, that was like the funniest thing ever, actually. Now that you think about it, like it's like playing dress up.
It's like playing dress up, yeah. Hey, dude, I'm going to be in here for like 10 minutes. Nah, dude. Jumpsuit.
I don't think Donald Trump even had a jumpsuit on for his mugshot.
I don't think so. I mean, not that I recall. Put on this jumpsuit, Scheffler. How long do you think I'm going to be in here? Shut up and put it on, golf boy.
Too bad they didn't let him keep it. And he what if he would have wore it on the course?
Oh, that would have been hilarious. Didn't have a collar though.
Got an escaped inmate.
Put on the jumpsuit. You know what? I still come back to this, and it doesn't look like he was playing the entitled golfer card. But even if he was playing the entitled golfer card, why can't people think like, all right, I could either just let this slide and let this golfer do whatever and then just be bitter about it for the rest of the day, but go on about my day. Or I can make a big stink and throw my weight around and make national news.
And now who looks like the idiot?
Yeah, exactly. It would have been way better if this guy was just like, oh, I don't like the cut of your jib, but you know what? I don't have time for this. Get out of here. Instead, it's like, get out of the car. You're being arrested. And good
felony
thing,
assault on
felony
an officer.
assault. And good thing you're wearing clothes that are, not a button-down shirt or a tie, because those clothes are coming off, and we're putting you in an orange jumpsuit, pal. Take that. I mean, the cop's name is out there all over the place.
Yeah,
and
his images and
he's a
everything.
national news figure. Like, that was the worst decision of his life.
He's infamous.
Did you ever do like hall monitor or crossing guard or anything like that when you were a kid?
No.
Did you know that person in your class volunteered for it every time because they were just dying to tell people what to do?
Dying to have some sense of authority and then get a good job from the teacher.
It's that type of
a stick or a gold star, yeah.
Listen, it's that type of person that elects to go into refereeing or officiating of any sort. That's why referees and officials are so annoying, because it's that guy. The guy who's like, oh, I'm just waiting to throw somebody out of this game or call a foul or make it about me. I mean, every time I think to see Tony Brothers, it's like that guy volunteered to be the crossing guard every time because he was looking to yell at folks.
That guy would accuse a golfer of assaulting him.
Lloyd just walked through there. He doesn't know what he's going to get.
No, Lloyd doesn't
we're
know.
Talking toilet paper. We're going to shave and cream the car. We're going to do all that juvenile stuff. We're going to do we're going the Kim Jong-un route. We're going to float a balloon over Lloyd's house. See Lloyd up on his roof cleaning it up the next day.
Can't tell you what's inside, though. That's for Lloyd to let you know about when he's upset about it.
All right, Hanson, Scotty are coming up next. Big thanks to everybody for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.